Girl, you know that I crave you. Keep it honest, I want your love, your loved one, love. Baby, ask you not too much. Just say yes, baby, it's a must. It's a yeah, say yeah, it's a yeah, it's a yeah, say yeah, it's a yeah. Me and you, girl, you know that I crave you.
Well, esoteric whistle. Time out of this KLC, throw the spirit coach. Getting you a shit before for the age of Aquarius. Yet again, internet age on y'all ass. You know what I'm saying? Talk about some internet age topics. The age of Aquarius, my expertise. That's my sun and my moon sign. You know what I'm saying? Got the Capricorn boss qualities and stuff too, with the rather and shit like that. But you know, welcome, man. Welcome to Capricorn season and everything. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully everybody been having a good, mental travel, spiritual travel, emotional travel, um, and uh, physical travel. Okay, because we know things ain't easy. You know what I'm saying? And this is what we finna break down too, even getting to Capricorn season, right? So Capricorn season is about experiencing the harsh reality. This Capricorn season is gonna be about experiencing the harsh reality or something, or seeing a way to secure a position. So you could be on either spectrum. You know what I'm saying? You could be on either spectrum. You could be seeing a harsh reality, like damn. You know what I'm saying? Like damn, like time passed me by, like I can't get in the position I want to. Or, if he was listening to astrology, you know what I'm saying, me and who I'm associated with and stuff like that, you probably know to plant good seeds. And so right now, you know what I'm saying, you're in a more secure position than you were last year, right? And so, because we do this shit year round, it's a cycle. It's a cycle. But we're going to talk about, some of the things right now in the internet age and stuff like that, because we see in the harsh realities of things in Capricorn season. And so you want to put yourself in a space where you can be useful. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to put yourself in a space where you ain't useful for yourself and you ain't useful to others. Like, come on, like that's trash. That's trash. You want to be useful for yourself and useful for others and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? You can't get used by yourself. Or you get used by others and stuff like that. Even if it's for them to laugh for you or at you at a moment and stuff like that until they come around and stuff. Like you got to be getting used in some way and things. In Capricorn season, you know what I'm saying? So, or you want to be secure in a position or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But we not go harbor too much on Capricorn season energies and shit like that. We're gonna deal with some actual introspection and things when it comes to, the mental travel of being in this age and on this journey as a motherfucking spiritual being and shit like that. And knowing how to, I hopefully y'all been following my last couple videos. We've been kind of doing deep dives and things of that nature back into these topics and shit like that, deep dives, so y'all can get back on spiritual track and things with y'all mind. And changing the mind is key, because it's like, it's one of the things that we all got the ability to do. And you see people do it every day and shit like that, but you wondering like, man, how do they do that? How do they do that? And shit like that. Why am I in the same position? Well, it could be multiple reasons and shit like that. But some of those reasons right now, we're gonna start to break down and give you a context of why it may be like that. You know what I'm saying? Why you may be experiencing the same shit. You know what I'm saying? Are you addictive? Or are you what you is? You addictive? You addicted to something? Do you need to take a chill with something? Like what you need? So we here, you know what I'm saying, to unpack these tendencies and shit like that. So I want y'all to know um, the unpacking addictive tendencies in the internet age. That's what this topic is about. So it's about coming together better. You know what I'm saying? It's about coming together better. Now I'm not gonna sit here like everybody on the internet right now and complain like, oh, we not coming together. Oh, we not no, we coming together the best way we can. You know what I'm saying? We coming together the best way we can. Y'all not slow. Everybody that watch me, y'all not slow. You know what I'm saying? Y'all got common sense and shit like that. And you know when you talk to another person in the world, it could be an average person, and you been maybe talking to them about some spiritual shit, and then they be like, damn, you know what I'm saying? They give you energies like they already know what you talking about. Yet they might not be in a position what you doing, as far as like speaking up on some shit like that, or you know what I'm saying, as far as like hosting a center stage for something of the sort, you know what I'm saying? But for the most part, at the end of the day, everybody got some type of common sense and shit like that, where we calling shit out and shit like that. Like we know Nicki Minaj was up there, you know what I'm saying, trying to get her check and shit like that and stuff for her personal reasons. We know Nicki Minaj want us to mind our business and shit like that, and let her do that and shit like that. We know she don't care about politics and shit like that too. So, when it comes to this mission and things of that nature, this is the things that y'all got to tune into. And uh, um, because, it is about how to come together better. So, like I said, I know all y'all got common sense. So let's not act these people. So now let's not let these people, you know what I'm saying, on YouTube, because y'all need to know, if you do watch me on YouTube, I know y'all be seeing me talking about things as far as me getting blocked, or me seeming like I'm talking to somebody that is like higher power or something like that. No, that's real. You know what I'm saying? It's, it's people here that don't want your narrative center stage and shit like that, and they rather pick somebody that's like a lesser form of you and copy and put them in front center stage, where that person has no knowledge of what's going on and stuff like that. So they just what so it's like blind leading the blind, like sheep leading the blind type things. So let's not act like let these people act like I'm saying something that keep me centered out and shit like that from the comments and stuff like that. That's the whole thing, is to distract and shit like that, and act like what I'm saying is it y'all don't relate to, because I call myself Zeus. So they really try to put me in some space where I'm like alienated from everybody. But this is shit that y'all know too. You know what I'm saying? This is just common sense. When you look at it and you have common sense, right? So let's not act like these people. They try to put me in the world on my own and shit like that. Y'all probably still watching. Yet my shit say zero right now. Yet it's people in the audience watching me right now. So it don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So this is extreme haterism and shit like that on YouTube and shit like that. And I don't even make a big fuss about it, because life ain't about that. You know what I'm saying? Life is about getting to what's exact and shit like that. Not feeding into somebody's psyop and shit like that. Because that's something they going through. That's something they going through. But like I said, so let's not act like these people. Uh, let's not act like these people don't try to put me in the world by myself, because it's all about how we come together. Just as much as it's negatives, it's positives too. Okay, so just as much as negatives, it's positives too. And this is the first and maybe the fastest time we as a group or a community can actually influence people. So when I'm saying there's positives in this shit, like online and shit like that, the internet, there's actually positives in this shit too. There's actually negatives in this shit too. But like some of the positives is that this is a time where you can have a group of people and y'all go viral quicker than anybody, just by like collaborating and stuff. And I'm not saying that this is the only way that you got to do it, but like, you know what I'm saying, y'all can all collab post on YouTube now. Y'all can all collab post on Instagram. Anything that's within that shit right now, and that looks like something that's you presenting your uniqueness in your community, that is the shit that's going viral right now. So like it's about coming together for sure and thing. But you know, where they got us positioned in the world, it may not look like we can are able to do that, but we are doing that in some way. You know what I'm saying? So that comes down to when we meet each other in actual person, and we may be in our own world, but once we start communicating with other individual, it's like, oh, that person know what I know and shit like that. And I'm talking about actually cherry picking real good, because it's actually people that be faking the funk like they know and stuff like that. But it's also actual people with sound minds that actually do know some things about the world and stuff like that. And these be cool people and shit like that. But yet, when once you get online and things of that nature, you see the total opposite. You see people up there that don't act like they know what's going on or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Or you see people that's only promoted with their own agendas. So you know what I'm saying? That's why Nicki Minaj, she gotta be like behind the scenes and shit like that. Like, you know, she got her own agenda and everybody can see through that. Everybody's speaking right through that. Oh yeah, you know, she doing that for woo 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 and shit like that. And that's true and shit like that. But the average individual, that lets you know the average individual know about politics and what the game is and how to play and things of that nature and what's not to say. So it's not that we are not all working together. It's more so is we got to be aware of how we working together. You know what I'm saying? And that will decide the determining factor of what gets what done and what not. All right. So so we're gonna unpack these tendencies, unpacking these addictive tendencies in the internet age and shit like that. Because um access, right? The access today, it gives you options, right? It gives you options. So options means you have more what? You have more to choose from. And what does that create? More wants and desires and shit like that. So as soon as you open your phone, as soon as you open your access and shit, you got more access to more information. That can create way more wants and desires than it actually did when you was just off the phone and shit like that. If you ever was born to that, you know what I'm saying? Like my daughter got a phone now and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So like this is things I gotta consider in my own life too. But for the most part, you know what I'm saying, she's ain't even, you know what I'm saying, teens yet. You know what I'm saying? But that lets you know, like, you know, and her mother had a phone younger than me too. So, I didn't get my first phone till I was like 18 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But it lets you know, like, some things is just moving fast and stuff like that. So it's just like, how are we working together? And then if we don't feel like we have no sense of working together, you know what I'm saying? Then everybody be in their own path, everybody be in their own selfishness and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? It just leads to negative shit. You know what I'm saying? It just leads to coping because you're not actually doing what you want to do, but you finna find something to cope with doing what you want to do, which is maybe be watching Instagram all day or watching Twitter all day. Whether you could have been writing that, you know what I'm saying, that play that you got, you know what I'm saying, or you could have been writing that song, you know what I'm saying, or you could have been sitting and filling out applications or some shit like that. So this is what we talking about. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, access gives you options. So options means you have more to choose from, and that creates more what? More wants and desires and shit like that. Whether that's you want to stop watching something, or you want to be like whatever you're watching and shit like that. So wants and desires, are already in the motherfucking space of unfulfillment, and that develop into frustration. So anytime you want and desire something and shit like that, and you got too many of those and shit like that, you're not gonna be able to fulfill that. That space in general is unfulfillment. So once you in that space for so long, that only can culminate to frustration and shit like that. And frustration consistently becomes behavior. Okay, so now you mad at your partner because you can't do this, or now you mad at your mama for calling you and you can't do this because why? You could have spent more seconds, hours, and minutes on the things that you wanted to do, but you know what I'm saying. For the most part, when it came to breaking down, being out of frustration didn't work for you because you wasn't aware and things like that. So this is what we finna unpack and shit like that when it comes to um getting together and shit like that, and knowing how we all gotta move in this age of Aquarius, internet age type shit. You know what I'm saying? And then we can boogie on down like that. All right. So let's break this shit down. Let's break shit all the way down. Okay. So um so like listen up. Listen up very carefully. A dopamine addiction filtered through escapism. You know what I'm saying? Now this could be many things, you know what I'm saying, but usually a lot of people kind of familiar with a dopamine addiction, whether that's, saying, you got eating habits, or you got stress habits that you uh cling to or something like that, or whatever habit you got and things. A dopamine addiction filtered through escapism is usually created through coming into contact with harsh circumstances. Okay, so in the addiction acts as a temporary evasion of the situation, right? So if you most likely the people that's addicted to something, they are temporarily trying to evade something, and whatever they're clinging to that's about to give them that dopamine release, it acts as a temporary evasion of the situation. So that's first and foremost. So which escape can feel um better than the feeling of feeling doomed or damned. So the feeling of escape can feel better than the feeling of feeling doomed or feeling damned to something, like you stuck in something, like you only got to deal with this situation. So making a spirit feel like a static lifetime worth of escape. So whatever you cling to and shit like that, when you hop into that energy, because it's already in the imagination realm and shit like that, it ain't got nothing to do with reality, but it's gonna be like you maybe getting high or something like that, or whatever you like to do and things of that nature that you utilize as escapism is better than feeling the feeling of feeling damned or doomed. So this escapism make the spirit feel like a static lifetime. Uh, it make it feel like that escape make it feel like it's a lifetime worth of ecstasy, basically, because for the most part, it's already gonna be in the imagination realm, and it ain't gonna be in the situation of dealing with nothing serious. So the imagination realm is endless. It don't got no time. So that's why when you do jump into that field, you do feel a bit more, you know what I'm saying, your blood get the rushing and stuff like that, because it's kind of false, but you kind of psyching your mind up to believe that it's true and things. So there's also the choice of how you escape, you know what I'm saying, too, through productive or unproductive addiction, and the percentage level you weigh on either side. So you can have productive addictions and shit like that, aka, you know what I'm saying, that music, aka whatever your gift and talent is, you know what I'm saying? So that could be the positive and things. But, for the most part, it's all about how you weigh it, because you can go too much into that and not understand, like, you may be dealing with reality, right? And it going into too much into your gifts and talents and shit like that without having some type of reality check, you can end up manifesting negative situations for yourself. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're not actually checking reality, but you want to do your passion, so you don't give a fuck how you talk to the person, or you don't give a fuck about patience. You forgot to wash your clothes for work that night or something like that. It can all play out like that, but that's what you need to understand. But for the most part, the harsh reality part of it it's to push you into isolation, and it acts and it activates the desire of doing things alone. So once you experience too much harsh reality and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? And whether that's your parents didn't want to listen to you, or people didn't give a fuck about you and your music, or people didn't give a fuck about your opinion and shit like that, or just negative fucked up situations in general, you know what I'm saying? It can activate the desire of wanting to do things alone, which you will never be able to get done. So let that sink in. So whether it's a situation, circumstance that you're using, you know what I'm saying, where even like I said, you whatever you use for your high or something like that, it's not really the high and shit like that, or whatever you using is whatever you using is a representation of that you're trying to reach a space and things, and you trying to take a shortcut. But you know what I'm saying, for the most part, you can't do things alone and shit like that. Things we always do things with each other, and that's how this world was created. So you know what I'm saying, even if you with a group of people and doing things alone and shit like that, it's always gonna feel more rewarding when it's less manipulation in it and shit like that, because you really manipulating yourself to feel like, oh, I'm doing this thing alone, or I'm doing this thing to get my way, you know what I'm saying, or I'm doing this thing, etc., right? So sip the tea on that one. But yeah, the harsh reality, once pushed into isolation, creates the desire of doing things alone, which you will never be able to get done. Wanted to do things alone for why? Now, this is the main reasons why that you may be addicted. You know what I'm saying? Because whatever your harsh reality check that you're hitting and shit like that, you know what I'm saying, is causing you uncertainty. It's causing you incapability, and it's causing you more uh, identification on those harsh circumstances and things of that nature. So, you know what I'm saying, when you dealing with those things, and the keyword desire, we know desire is the energy of unfulfillment. You know what I'm saying? So you may be desiring based upon your uncertainty. You may be desiring because of your incapability. And and a lot of these things, most of these things have to be checked, because a lot of these things that you incapable of, uncertainty of, you may be harsh on yourself, and a lot of these things were forced on y'all based upon, USA colonization, setting up government, and things of that nature, and basically one group of individuals willing to crash out further than you and your people may have been able to crash out. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you got native mixed in you and shit like that. But it may be based upon that and things. So you may be damning yourself based upon your uncertainty and things of that nature, your incapability and shit like that. And that will also lead you to feeling alone, or you don't have nobody to talk about it with, or something like that. So these is the situations that you're gonna have to check, you know what I'm saying, as a spirit, you know, going through your travels and shit like that, when you interact with these, phases of what we going through. All right. But because one truly can't do all things alone, um, so giving you things like drugs, pornography, and other unnatural man-made things that make you feel as if you can act as a catalyst to your spirit's demise, and does not and and anyone who does not realize the reason for their escape by, on a percentage level, affirming in their pleasure, your incapability starts to lead to things like mental illness and shit like that, distress and shit like that, because for the most part, you start appreciating what you can't have and shit like that. And if you're not aware of that's what you doing and shit like that, you about to build a life of confusing. So it's like finding that temporary escape, but within, you know, a small time frame until that start to wear out, and then you need more of that, more of that, more of that again, type shit. So, you know what I'm saying? When it comes to working out these kinks and shit like that, it's important, you know, that you notice and shit, because once you realize the reason why you may be overdoing it, and it's not about doing nothing, nothing, none of these are bad that I said, like drugs, none of this shit is like considered bad and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? It's unless it's harsh drugs, but you know what I'm saying. But for the most part, what I mean, like none of it is completely bad or good. It's always positives and negatives to everything and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? There's always positive outcomes to that, even that happens to negative reactions or negative circumstances and shit like that. Somebody die, somebody get born, type shit. So you know what I'm saying? So there's always positives and negatives to everything. But when it comes to, you know, cherry picking, it's about percentage level far as what you feel that, you know, you may be going overboard with, and learning how to understand the percentage level of what's on your mind lead to your reality, type shit. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know what I'm saying, if you start being feeling like you out of control, you know what I'm saying, with, you know, you watching your screen too much, where you could have been working on your album or something like that, you know what I'm saying, then that outcome for you, it may be negative, it may be positive to somebody else, but it may be negative to you. Okay? So, you know what I'm saying? Now, it don't make it no better that we got the government system where they're out for convenience. So whatever y'all into and shit like that, they try to play the fulfiller of that. You know what I'm saying? And they got many ways to do this, and they've been studying how to do this for a very long time and things of that nature. Why you think they say they was making they was using slot machine casino people to help make the fucking the internet and shit like that, algorithm and shit like that, because they for real into that. You know what I'm saying? They for real into that. They not playing. They trying to take your time and shit like that. They understand time is movement. You know what I'm saying? Time is movement. Time is time, and whatever we create our time into, we only accumulating. What we doing then? You know what I'm saying? We only accumulating that spirits. You only growing more and more and more and more of whatever you lost in every day. You know what I'm saying? Whether that's your character or whether that's your retardedness, or whether that you going to accumulate more into that. You know what I'm saying? Now you start having better ideas, you can have better ways of thoughts that accumulate that can combat them old things, but you still going to have to combat that old thing as well too. So you know what I'm saying, this is just the battle of existence and shit like that when it comes to spirituality and things like that. And I don't know what y'all into if y'all don't know to learn like that, right? But you know, these is the things that, you know, you gotta you got to be aware of and shit like that. So you know, like I said, now dopamine addiction is filtered through escapism, and is usually created through coming into contact of our harsh reality. Now, some people got better realities than others and shit like that, based upon how, you know what I'm saying, their circumstance was brought up and shit like that. But like if you got a harsh reality already and shit like that, which all of us, you know what I'm saying, experienced this on some level and shit like that. Nobody got 100% good and shit like that. But if you got more of this on the level and shit like that, you know, this is why you may grow uh less comprehensive brain than somebody else. Like you may think you came up amongst your people and y'all just together, y'all just God's gift to earth. But when y'all start to go out into the real world, based upon, you know what I'm saying, where your attention was at and the circumstances, you didn't realize that your family probably created that protection for you to be lost in because of the harsh world outside. So it's like once you realize that and once you shake from that and shit like that, you know what I'm saying, you can start facing your own outside and things and start catching up to speed on what you may need, where you actually may you need to do shadow work, where you may actually need to start learning a little bit more, expanding your mind a little bit more, you know what I'm saying, type shit. But like I said, this dopamine that we got is created through escapism, and it is usually comes from harsh circumstances. And the addiction plays out as temporary evasion from a situation and things of that nature, a situation that you experiencing and shit like that. So, you know, it come in all ways. Cigarettes, they making money in all ways off this. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Basketball. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got no type of situation to go create no basketball for yourself, but they can give you a basketball to watch and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got no situation to go create uh you know what I'm saying, a Spotify on yourself, but they can give you that shit for you to listen to all day and things of that nature. And so when we in that space and when we're doing these things alone and self-serving and not coming to not realizing that's what we're doing and shit like that, because it ain't that we not doing something, it's just more so we realizing we're not doing it type shit. This could be the failure of the mind. You know what I'm saying? This could be how you get lost in cycles and not understanding how to, okay, how to evolve with the current type shit. So you always got to challenge yourself and things of that nature outside of what you consume. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all be consuming things and consuming, trying to see like what to do type shit. And um, it always start with you and your vibe and what you feeling and what you going through type shit. And dealing with that. It's just some people got broader ways of dealing with it and some people don't. So this is the whole scheme. It's the whole scheme. Uh it's just yeah, they just be putting a lot of nosy people in my live and stuff like that. Like this not for y'all and stuff like that. It's for my people. You know what I'm saying? It's for my people and shit like that. And we got Native American and shit like that. And we know we don't fuck with that shit. Christian and shit like that. We don't fuck with that shit. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So when you in this internet age and shit like that, you know, there's gonna be things like fear of missing out. You know what I'm saying? There's gonna be things of like lack of originality and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? There's gonna be things of putting us in position why it may seem like we separate from each other and shit like that. And why like even fear of missing out and things that's created based upon the internet and shit like that, and them putting characters up there, and you know what I'm saying, everybody, like every individual know that whoever is getting picked is getting funded for something and shit like that and things. It's just y'all be so bored mentally, y'all don't have no type of creativity skills to kind of create a way for yourself outside of consuming and shit like that, and trying to get in line with the next person or situation and circumstance that can give you a boost and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But it ain't nothing to create something for your own people. Create something so your seeds can have a better way of going about something and stuff like that, all the way down from mentally, you know what I'm saying, to emotionally. You know what I'm saying? It's just about going ahead and starting to do that. You know what I'm saying? And put your feet on the ground and working that out. So, so I want people as well as myself, you know what I'm saying, to feel more adequate with taking responsibility and considering their ability to change. And that's the whole purpose of this video, to get people the overall concept of what this dopamine addiction is. You know what I'm saying? Because you are dealing with a phone every day. You are picking it up because it is influence there, and it's making and you seeing people hit the lottery, and you like, damn, how can I hit the lottery and shit like that. Now, if you going on it in a way of I gotta get on there to hit the lottery, you may be going on your way backwards. You gotta hit the lottery within yourself. What is your talent? What is your gift? What is your skill set? What can you do? What, you know what I'm saying? And then you put that out in the world type shit, and then that supposed to attract your audience and shit like that. Not you getting online and trying to hit the lottery and shit like that, and then make yourself something that based upon some shit online type shit. No, what are you into? What's your core? You know what I'm saying? And once you understand that, you know, you'll be up on the race and shit like that. But for the most part, like I said, I want everybody to consider their ability to change, especially, you know what I'm saying, dealing with this online presence, dealing with the fear of missing out and shit like that. Because, like I said, fear of missing out, you know, that causes frustration and shit like that. Because you got that access, you got access to what if I was doing this, what if I was doing this, what if I, and then you just create a bunch of what if I was doing something thoughts and shit like that, and that accumulate in your blood flow as you being confused for the rest of the day, you being confused for the next 24 hours on what to do type shit. Yeah, but if you just say, no, I got a talent and I'm doing this and shit like that, okay, now you on the right path. You considering your ability to change and shit like that. You considering your ability to step up. And I'm not saying, you know, everything's supposed to be overdone overnight. You know what I'm saying? It's worth the fight. But when you see people have a certain phase that they was going through and they change it for the better, this is what they're considering. They're considering what I'm talking about. Where is they giving their time to? How is they think? How what thoughts that they had on their mind? Even if they don't know about this, that's why I'm the spirit coach, because I'm giving y'all a higher perspective and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But you know, this is what they considering. What am I giving my time to? You know what I'm saying? What thoughts and feelings am I giving my time to? Type shit. Why am I giving my time to it like that? You know what I'm saying? And then whatever they own connection with God and how they play that out and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? The things. Like I said, like some of these people. Nah, I'm not excusing the people that, you know, got it good, just silver spoon and shit like that. That shit real. You know, but you know, for the most part, things like that, you know, things like lack of originality, it all come from this. It all come from people giving their time to addictive qualities for the quality for the addictive quality of belonging. You know what I'm saying? For the addictive quality of well, I said belonging. I mean, like I feel like that's the biggest one. You know what I'm saying? But you know, one not to be left out and things of that nature. Yet they getting put in a position where they is left out and things because now it's filtered within some game that the government created and shit like that. And that game is to intentionally leave you out, especially if you ain't none of them or their family or something like that. You know what I'm saying? That shit finna intentionally leave you out. You know what I'm saying? So you need to understand that. So all we do is doing is talk about common sense and unpacking. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, um, so anytime you feel like even if you working or even if you working long hours, like you gonna reach that day where you don't feel like doing nothing, where you feel like, you know what I'm saying, damn, I'm finna do this now. I'm finna do this, man. Let me watch Netflix for 2 minutes and shit like that. Why the boss ain't calling me and shit like that. Boss come in right and catch you and shit like that because, you know what I'm saying? It'd be shit like that. It'd be shit like that, you know what I'm saying? Because, first of all, that shit, this slave system is how they set it up anyway. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, and things lead that ain't no negative habit. But what can become a negative habit is you being on your phone a lot and keep doing it and shit like that. Now you lost your job. Now you can't provide for yourself and shit like that. So it's about, like I said, percentage level and knowing when you going too far into manifesting negative situations and circumstances that lead down the road of it's too selfish, and now you can destroy your whole situation, your operation, and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? You're not understanding balance in a different way. You know, so understand that. Not to say, like I said, not to say these things aren't fair and shit like that. A lot of this shit ain't fair. A lot of this shit ain't fair. It ain't no fair. It's just one group of people willing to crash out than people, other people that's honorable. You know what I'm saying? One group of people, I keep thinking it's water in this and shit like that. One group of people that's willing to crash out, and the other group of people that's honorable that ain't trying to do nothing like that. So, this what I want you to do. If you do feel like you got the ability to change and shit like that, you got the ability and you got more abilities that from watching this video, go ahead, like that video, comment and subscribe and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, like that video, comment and subscribe and things if you feel like you got more of the abilities to change. But this is what Capricorn season is going to bring us to in general. You know what I'm saying? Understanding the harsh realities of what we got going on and shit like that. And one of the harsh reality is that shit, all of us kind of addicted type shit. All of us are kind of addicted because the government got a lot of us fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So it's already sold up in a situation where the external, we can't go do what we want to do as far as like, you know what I'm saying, go acquire land and shit like that without white boy telling you can't do something after they did it and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? After they did it and took your whole land, your whole ancestors' land and shit like that. There's already that and shit like that. So it's like, don't question that. So, you know what I'm saying? Distract yourself with Disney. Distract yourself with, distract yourself with basketball, NBA. Distract yourself with NFL. You know what I'm saying? Distract your people and stuff like that. Distract them with rap. Distract them with the Billboard 100 and shit like that. Distract them. Distract them. Just a bunch of distractions and shit like that. But, you know what I'm saying? This is that escapism. Because now you evade and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And as a spirit, you're supposed to be purposeful and shit like that. So what is your purpose? Do you feel like you can make impact? Do you feel like you got intent? Do you feel like you got something to offer and shit like that? And if you ain't really necessarily cultivating that, and you know what I'm saying, you're finding pleasure in not doing that and things of that nature. This is when you about to manifest some shit that's bogus for you because you about to find pleasure in not doing what you want to do and shit like that. You know, and that manifests to your reality and situations and circumstances where you know you gotta pay something for real. You gotta pay what you owe. You gotta pay what you owe. So just this real shit, man. We got a lot of access out here. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of things that you be thinking about, like, damn, what I'm gonna do today? What I should do? What should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do this? Do this? You know what I'm saying? Do that, do that. And you know what I'm saying? Like that cultivates too many desires. So you gotta get your thoughts and your feelings right and shit like that. You gotta get your mentality right. You know what I'm saying? You gotta get your mind together. You know what I'm saying? And your mind is capable of doing, you know, godly things, and that's changing, that's being a spark for somebody else, that's your mind is capable. So how you want to come, G? You know what I'm saying? How you want to come? How you want to come? You want to be out or in? So yeah, like I said, it's not that we not coming together. It's about how we coming together, and we all coming together, and it's manipulated for sure, but like I said, it's just it's filtered because, like I said, I know damn well everybody got common sense and shit like that to know that a lot of the shit I be saying be true. Yet you will see a bunch of retarded people that ain't even half of what I'm that got thousands of views, 50K views, whatever, and they doing the same type of field that I'm doing and shit like that, but yet is unrepresentable based upon them having a more familiar face, familiar face for whatever the people are presenting type shit. You know what I'm saying? Familiar face for whatever is comfortable and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And not to say that I'm uncomfortable or shit like that or making me uncomfortable. It's just people playing games online. And then you can take this to the situation of college and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So just think about if you ain't doing something in college or if you ain't moving a certain way in the job field they want you to do. They're not gonna do that. You don't think they're trying to bring that concept to the internet too? And if you have a opinion that is outside, not even because it ain't even about outside opinion, but this is just facts and shit like that. This is just making them whatever you look like you got to go spend money to do and shit like that to be smart. I didn't did that 10 times over already. Like I didn't already did that, but it's just not going to be represented type shit. So you got to do it yourself type shit. But this is you supposed to do it yourself. You know what I'm saying? And with others and shit like that, with others as well. And like I said, a lot of y'all, I have a lot of conversations with a lot of y'all. I already know y'all be up on game and shit like that. I already know y'all be smart and shit like that. Y'all know exactly what I mean. It's just we all know when it comes to what we observe and how we gotta go about it. You get what I'm saying? So because of what we observing out in the outside world, that be the thing where should I associate with this person because this person gonna stop my money? Should I cut this person off because you know what I'm saying? Because this person image gonna do that, and that's fake. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be real. You gotta be a real hard spirit. You gotta be doing your thing all times, bitch. You know what I'm saying? You gotta associate things and not to crash out. You gotta be crafty, man. You gotta have a mind. You gotta have things worth doing it for and shit like that. Because other than that, you just gonna crash out. But you know what I'm saying? That's what they own. They trying to make everybody secret addicts and shit like that. They is and shit. You know what I'm saying? Because they only got dopamine highs and shit. They got super dopamine highs and shit like that. But they truly never satisfied and shit like that. That's why they got all the money. Yet they always coming after y'all, coming after the little people and shit like that, man. It's just people that just don't got so much time on their hands. Black and white people that's just in positions of power, non-power, prowess and shit, positions of nothingness. You know what I'm saying? But positions of crash out. Not helping anything, not presenting any knowledge that could help people with their mind for real. Not, you know what I'm saying? But all sarcasm taken and how we can make money off you and make you look like you ain't representable and shit like that. We can make money off of what you talking about though. Let's put that retarded person in the algorithm that look like you, so it's called a joke against you type shit. That's how they think. That's how they think. and shit like that. Let's do like this, just make you just look bogus and shit like that. But you know, when you as fresh as me and shit like that, you can't. You know, when you as handsome as looking good as me, you can't. You just can't help it. You can't help it, guys. Gonna see this face somewhere. Gonna see this swag somewhere. Gonna see this imprint somewhere. Gonna see this brand somewhere. Gonna see this mentality somewhere. Gonna hear this music somewhere. Okay, you just can't stop it. You know, can't stop. Can't be. But yeah, you know, that's really, yeah, I just wanted to kind of kick it with y'all and stuff like that because, like I said, you know, we got to unpack these tendencies in this internet age and shit like that because it ain't going back. So, you know what I'm saying? You got to understand how to rule your motherfucking time and shit like that. And that's even better segueing into the energies that we got today. You know what I'm saying? Sun in Capricorn, Moon and Moon in Aquarius. So, what do we give our time to? Giving our time to things that we associate with. You know what I'm saying? And you know, on a percentage level, you know what that do for you. You know what I'm saying? Did you give your time to more things that look like you or shit like that, or did you associate like a person that can't do shit for themselves today? Did you associate with that? Did you associate with that? Did you associate with that? So this is like we can't give ourselves excuses all the time. You know what I'm saying? We got to know like, okay, we smart too, and then it's a thing that's going on that's with us and shit like that, and with our um, connection, and there's shit going on within the world and shit like that, and we all see what's going on, and we all know what's going on, but yet, you know what I'm saying, we gotta kind of play some type of game and shit like that, and may the strongest win, and the strongest spirits win and shit like that, and hopefully I see all y'all there and shit like that when we get there and shit, when we make it, when we make it, and shit like that. So it's just don't ever get too lost into the physical and things, you know, and just stay on your motherfucking path. Stay motherfucking prayed up and pray on your motherfucking desire and your motherfucking goal, your heart's desire and shit like that. And pray on your goal because your heart is always gonna really lead to relationship and shit like that. AKA the outcome ain't never gonna be totally for you. Your heart is all about relationship. So it's gonna be you and another person and shit like that. And that's supposed to culminate between what you can actually do in the world. That's making you only can bring something in the world with another individual. So, you know what I'm saying? When you when you and that individual, you know, share that relationship and shit like that, you know, you supposed to learn the things about you that ain't necessarily needed in that relationship, drop them things off, you know what I'm saying, and come a little bit more realistic and vice versa. And that person supposed to be doing the same thing, and where y'all balance each other out and things, and now y'all going for that goal on that purpose and that train for the right reasons and shit like that, aka not to get what you just solely want and shit like that, but to get something that's beneficial for everybody. It's not saying that you can't have what you want, but it likely is going to be modified based upon us having other individuals in the world type shit. You know what I'm saying? It's just going to be modified that way. It's just going to be modified that way. So, you know, make sure y'all all giving that time. Give my time straight BS today. Then, yeah, yeah. Shout out to you, man. You know what I'm saying? You got to know the difference and shit like that. You got to know the difference of what you're doing and shit. You know, but that's the beginning steps and things of that nature. And that's the beginning steps. Okay, I did that. You know what I'm saying? Now I do it. Now you got to do that every day. You know what I'm saying? Every day you got to fight with that every day and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? And that be your motherfucking um, space that you carve out and shit like that, where you're more into, you know, if we not online and shit like that, we in reality utilizing our expressions and shit like that, and things we learn from off the world to help each other and shit like that, where instead of us being like, oh yeah, go take that Tylenol and shit like that. No, we was observing life, and that when you do this, you can do this fruit, and it fuck with you. You know what I'm saying? Fuck with you the right way. You know what I'm saying? You can put this lemon in this water and shit like that, and it'll help you naturally. And these is the things that we supposed to be teaching each other and shit like that, all the way from the physical remedies and shit like that to mental remedies and shit. And this is how we manifest more being on one chord in our associations and shit like that, where we might not be there yet to come physically, but we can be there mentally and shit like that, starting in our own household and shit like that, and where we can be examples for our family and examples for our surroundings. So this is the real way, you know what I'm saying, to see it. It's a real way to see it. So you gotta manage your time and shit like that. Manage your time. Manage who you spend your time with. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, I want y'all to feel more adequate in taking responsibility. So if you feel more adequate in taking responsibility of your life, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment and shit. You know what I'm saying? Because man, this is the way and shit like that. So now we got the awareness. I can run it down one more time. So dopamine addiction filtered through escapism is usually created through coming in contact with harsh circumstances and shit like that. And harsh circumstances to you, they could be actual harsh circumstances, like, you know what I'm saying, just force and shit like that. But also, you meeting the harsh reality of, you know, you thought you could sing, somebody told you couldn't and shit like that. And then if you take that harsh and shit like that, likely, what I'm saying, you're gonna start trying to evade the same circumstance. So you know what I'm saying? Or if you're a strong spirit, you fight that. But if you feel bad about that, usually, you know what I'm saying, you try to evade that, and not experience that again. And depending on your escape and what your escape is, these could be very things that's infiltrated by others, spirits and shit like that, that figured that this was gonna be something you do or something like that, and leads you down a path where, you know what I'm saying, you finna follow a bunch of whole other spirits down a cliff or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So this is like people that's just rebellious for no reason. You know what I'm saying? Not wanting to go to school for no reason. It's like, if you don't go to school, you got to know what you do that for. Like, did you want to present, a certain level of smartness, you know what I'm saying? Or did you just want to do it just because that's what you wanted to do? Like, that ain't going to work, you know what I'm saying, in this world. You got to have an idea behind what you doing. You know what I'm saying? You got to have, intent behind what you doing, because it is people playing hands that it's not in your favor. You know what I'm saying? If you do these things. So I do encourage people that if you don't have a plan to go to school and shit like that, if you don't have no thought, no idea, then do that. You know what I'm saying? But if you do have some ideas and shit like that, and you willing to go on that journey and shit like that, then do that and stuff. But don't be just, oh, I want to drop out and just follow my, career as a, you know what I'm saying, type shit. Like, you gotta be careful these days and shit. You gotta be careful. Be careful. But yeah, so once you in this harsh reality of doing things alone and shit like that, you know what I'm saying, you start to get a high off doing these things alone, whether that's you separating from that situation and start fucking with the high, and now you trying to substitute you feeling the harsh reality with the high. And so you're trying to do things by yourself, aka you can't do that talent and make that person think that, so you turn to the high instead, and that be the substitute for the situation and circumstance of you, and that be the situation and circumstance of you. And this ain't got nothing to do with anybody smoking either, too. But I'm just using these as examples. You turn to the high, and that be the replacement and shit like that. But when that fade and shit like that, you know what I'm saying, you get back depressed. You know what I'm saying. But you're not dealing with the actual reality of it, whether you need to go back and practice your vocal skills a little bit, you know what I'm saying, whatever, or, you know, go to sing for other people. That person may not just be for you or some shit like that, or that person may be a hater. But it's always, you got to check in reality and shit like that. And make sure you're doing good reality checks and shit like that, especially Capricorn season. And that's it. And shout out to everybody in the chat that participated, and y'all the best. And thank you for joining this shit, man. Kelsito, the spirit coach, and we getting you in shape and form for this internet age of Aquarius. All right, get your ass in the game. Make sure y'all like.